Most people fear debt. They see it as something evil, something dangerous. They think debt, stress, pressure, and lifelong struggle. But what if I told you that's exactly what the rich want you to believe? Because while most of us are taught to avoid debt like the plague, the wealthy, they've mastered it. They use debt as a wealth-building weapon, and not just a small weapon, but the kind of weapon that helps them build empires, towers, and generational legacies. In this video, I'm going to show you how the rich use debt to get richer, step by step, with real examples, and most importantly, how you can start using these strategies too. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn might completely flip your understanding of money, wealth, and debt upside down. Part 1. The two faces of debt. Let's start with a basic but powerful truth. Not all debt is bad. Yes, I know. Your parents probably told you, "Beta, never take a loan. Only poor people take debt. Live within your means." And in some ways, they were right. But also, they were misinformed. There are two types of debt in the financial world. Bad debt. This is the kind of debt that keeps you broke. You borrow to spend. You buy a new iPhone on EMI. You swipe your credit card for a luxury vacation. You take a car loan for a car you can't afford. It gives short-term pleasure, but long-term pain. Good debt. This is the kind of debt that makes you richer. You borrow money to buy an asset, something that produces cash flow, something that pays you back, something that appreciates in value. The key difference? Bad debt takes money out of your pocket. Good debt puts money into your pocket. Once you understand this, your whole mindset about debt begins to shift. And the rich, they live by this principle. Part 2. Real estate, the playground of leverage. Let's break this down with a simple example from real estate. Imagine this. You want to buy a house worth Rs 1 crore. Now, if you're part of the middle class, you'll probably think, I need to save for 10 years to buy this. Or worse, you might take a massive loan just to live in it. But a rich investor? They look at this very differently. They don't spend Rs 1 crore from their own pocket. They use leverage. They put down Rs 20 lakhs as a down payment. They borrow the remaining Rs 80 lakhs from the bank. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's say the monthly rent from that property is Rs 50,000 and the EMI is Rs 45,000. That means every month the tenant pays the bank EMI, not the investor. Over time, the property appreciates. Let's say after 10 years, it's worth Rs 1.5 crore. That Rs 20 lakh investment turned into Rs 70 plus lakh in profits. And what did the investor really do? Used other people's money to build wealth. That's the power of leverage. Part 3. How business owners use debt to scale. Now let's go beyond real estate. Let's talk about business. How do you think most startups grow? How do big companies expand globally? It's not just with profits, it's with debt. But here's the secret. Debt that's strategic. Let's say an entrepreneur has a small business selling handmade furniture. Demand is growing, but they don't have enough stock. They take a Rs 5 lakh business loan. They buy raw materials in bulk, set up faster production, hire more staff. Their monthly revenue jumps from a 50,000 to Rs 2 lakhs. They repay the loan in 12 months, and the business continues to grow. That's what good debt looks like. It's used to create more value, to expand capacity, to multiply returns. The rich take calculated risks with borrowed money because they know the potential rewards are far greater. Part 4. Lessons from history. Debt-built nations. Let me take this even deeper. Do you know how the United States became a superpower? Debt. After World War II, the U.S. government borrowed huge sums to rebuild infrastructure, support industries, and invest in technology. Yes, they had debt, but they also had growth. Even today, many of the largest corporations, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, carry debt. Why? Because they can borrow money at 3% interest and generate 10%, 15%, even 30% returns on that capital. If someone gave you Rs 1 crore at 3% interest and you could earn 15% using that money, wouldn't you take that deal? That's what the rich do. It's not about how much debt you have. It's about what that debt is doing for you. Part 5. Smart use of credit, the wealthy way. Now let's get personal. Do you have a credit card? If yes, how do you use it? For most people, a credit card is a trap. They buy things they can't afford. They miss payments. They fall into high-interest debt. But the rich? They play this game differently. They use credit cards for every single expense. Not because they need credit, but because they're collecting points, rewards, and building their credit score. They always pay in full, never carry a balance, and often use business credit cards to keep cash flowing in their businesses. Some even get 0% APR loans on credit cards. Invest that money, make profits, repay the debt before interest kicks in. It's advanced, but it works if you know the rules. Part 6. Why you've been taught to avoid debt. Here's a truth that might sting. You were never taught how money really works. Schools never taught you about credit, leverage, or assets. They taught you how to be an obedient worker, not a wealth builder. Why? Because a society that's afraid of debt is easier to control. If everyone avoids debt, banks make more from the few who fall into bad loans. And the rich? They have fewer competitors using leverage to grow. You were programmed to fear debt, but the rich were trained to master it. That's the difference. Part 7. Rules for using debt like the rich. So now that you understand the mindset, how do you apply this in your own life? Here are 7 simple rules. 1. Never borrow for liabilities. No loans for clothes, gadgets, parties, or luxury. 2. Use debt only for income-producing assets. Think rental properties, businesses, high-return investments. 3. Always calculate the ROI. Will your borrowed money produce more than it costs? 4. Avoid high-interest consumer debt. Credit cards, payday loans, BNPL traps. Stay away unless you're in control. 5. Build your credit score. Use small loans, pay on time, build a trustworthy profile. 6. Separate emotion from borrowing. Don't take loans to impress others. That's how people stay poor. 7. Study before you borrow. Understand the terms. Learn the risks. Have a plan to repay. If you follow these rules, debt will no longer be your enemy. It'll be your secret weapon. Part 8. Middle class versus rich, the real difference. Let's say this clearly. The middle class borrows to look rich. The rich borrow to get rich. Middle class buys new cars on EMI, takes loans for weddings, maxes out cards for vacations. Rich takes loans to buy assets, uses debt to expand businesses, lets others pay off their loans through rent, revenue, or returns. This one difference changes everything. Don't fall for the trap of looking rich. Focus on being rich. Debt isn't evil. Misused debt is. If you understand the game, you stop fearing it and start using it to build, whether it's buying your first rental property, launching a business, or even investing in a course that increases your income. Smart debt can accelerate your journey. The rich don't get rich by avoiding debt. They get rich by controlling it. And now that you know this, you're no longer in the dark. So next time you hear someone say, "Never take debt," smile, because you know the real game. If this video opened your eyes, drop A in the comments, like, share, and subscribe.